All right, welcome to a very special edition of Riverhounds post game. It is Riverhounds playoff post game. Hard to believe the Pittsburgh Riverhounds now have a very happy playoff memory indeed. Pittsburgh Riverhounds somehow show a lot of resiliency tonight and come back time after time to pull out a remarkable penalty kick shootout result win on the road in Birmingham. Every time it seemed like they just weren't going to win. They came back. Just so many here. Really, the two main heroes from the evening: Edward Kiza, the former University of Pittsburgh standout, who got drafted by the New England Revolution and got word earlier this month that he will not be brought back to New England. I think when he got his chance very late in the match, came out with a chip on his shoulder. He's really been playing like that anyway when he gets minutes for the Riverhounds. But wow, in the 90th minute, 38 seconds after he enters the match, the Hounds are trailing 1-0. And it's just a ball that gets to him, and he just redirects it. He's in the right place at the right time. But Bob Lilly, Riverhounds head coach, talks so often about making sure guys are on the end of runs and in the right place at the right time, and to bring on a fresh body like Edward Kiza to come up with that big equalizing goal that made it 1-1. And then, of course, they go to extra time. And again, the Hounds fall behind again, another goal allowed, kind of watching the paint dry. Put a lot of pressure on the ball on the right side there. And they just allowed that goal, that second goal by Birmingham. That was Bruno Lappa in the 104th minute, and just like that, Birmingham goes up 2-1 in extra time, and then of course the Riverhounds just kind of stick with it, And I think in overtime, Bob Lilly was dealing with the hand that he was dealt. At the end of regulation, he took out a number of veterans. He took out Alex Dixon. Even before the final whistle, I believe it was Canardo Forbes who came out for Edward Kiza. I mean, what a sub. You take out your Canardo Forbes, the USL Championship's all-time leading assist man, because he didn't have much gas left in the tank, and neither did Alex Dixon and some of the other guys that were putting in a lot of minutes. And I mean, I don't even know where to begin. I mean, Albert Dekler and Russell Cicerone, the two guys that are doing all the legwork, did play the 130 minute of full time. I mean, so lots of credit to them. But yeah, no, 2-1 makeshift kind of lineup. But again, last week, the Riverhounds beat Oakland Roots 3-1 in a pretty convincing victory. But one of the things they did last week, first time we've seen it in a long time, we went with a 5-man backline, put Danny Griffin in the middle of that 5-man backline. And guess what? Tonight, when they needed to make an adjustment late in the match, what did they do? They went to that 5-man backline, put Danny Griffin back there, and it worked. I mean, it was a makeshift situation, but it worked. And I think Bob Lilly had that. I'm sure I can't wait to ask him that question when I get a chance this week sometime following this match tonight. But yeah, they go to a 5-man backline. They kind of, I mean, again, the Hounds were outshot for most of the night. The statistics were not in their favor, so they're down 2-1, and going into the second extra time. And it didn't look good, but then again, at the same time, they were outshot significantly. I believe at the end of the match, it was 22-7 shots. And what can we say about Jamali Waite, the goalkeeper for the Riverhounds? During play, made 7 fantastic saves. I think a number of them were really terrific saves. And he was busy and he was under pressure. And somehow this team showed a lot of resiliency to withstand the pressure. I thought Arturo Ordonez in the middle, center back, played an outstanding game. I mean, he was trying to keep up with and mark Enzo Martinez, who we know is very dangerous. No, that Argudulo is another dangerous threat at the top of their attack. They like to get the ball to his feet. And that's how Birmingham scored their first goal. It was a set piece. Ball played to, from the set piece to Argudulo's foot, and then he flicked it over, and that was a really nice header goal that kind of went over Waite's head. And really, I thought, stunned the Hounds. But, the pressure kept coming. But it was interesting that Birmingham would score on a set piece. And the Hounds defended it pretty well. But got to give them credit on that excellent execution of the set piece. And Bob Lilly, Riverhounds head coach, said before the match, these teams know each other very well, but it was going to come down to set pieces. I mean, not necessarily set pieces, but it was going to come down to execution, I should say. And that execution for Birmingham paid off in that set piece. Even though the Birmingham was pressuring the Hounds and bringing waves and bringing shots, the Hounds were controlling, actually had more possession, and they were very selective. They had 6 total shots and 3 on frame. So they were trying to make the most of their opportunities. So it was a pretty well played. Another interesting note, the official, which we'll get to a little bit later too, because that's going to be important. I thought really let things go and let guys play and let the hard tackles be what they were. The Hounds were getting a lot of tackles early in the match too, and that contributed to kind of the way the game was called all the way through until the last, I guess you would call it the last 10 minutes. But yeah, that was an interesting scenario there, as the official throughout the match let things go, but then he got hurt in the scenario that led to the Hounds' second equalizing goal. Yes, that was Eric Tattersall, the official, and he he did a good job tonight. I thought he let things go to the point where he let them play. And there were some close calls and tackles, but a lot of times in the broadcast team that was doing the game made points that some of those tackles were close. They were on ball, and he was pretty close. There were 2 yellow cards issued in the match. One to Shane Wheat and another to Edward Kiza late in the match. So, so Kiza comes through again. The Hounds got in transition in the second period of extra time. They get forward quickly. And as that's happening, Tetterall gets knocked down by a Legion player. And it was a little bit of a collision, and it gave the Hounds an added advantage, but it was one of those, it was kind of a bang bang thing, and it was incidental. I mean, the replay showed it was clearly incidental, and the Hounds got in probably, I think, about a 5-on-3 really break, and they had the numbers. The ball was played to William Ayang, and Ayang, hasn't played much this year, comes off the bench again late. I was surprised he was subbed in before Kiza, and that was interesting as well. But he brought the energy. He did a lot. They put him out wide. He's a bigger guy, could be more of a hold up target forward type player, but they kept him wide. They just had used him for his energy to get make those runs down the left flank. And sure enough, in the 114th minute, it paid off as Ayang got wide left. Got around, enough around the defender that he could make that cross into, and guess who's there? Edward Kiza. And once again, the Hounds tie it up 2-2 in the 114th minute. And then, of course, Tetterall, that goal happens. And then there's this probably like 10 minutes of stoppage time. And it was pretty crazy. Absolutely. Time just sitting there ticking off. And it just seemed like the night would never end in Birmingham. But alas, the match finished after about 130 plus minutes. The 4th official came on for the last maybe 5 or 6 minutes, and of course, it would go to penalty kicks. And it was something that, hey, we've been here before. At least watched, covering the Riverhounds. I haven't been here since 2018, being in a penalty kick shootout. Of course, that was the infamous Bethlehem Steel first ever home playoff game against Bethlehem Steel at Highmark Stadium. And of course, the Hounds came up short in that penalty kick shootout. I'm sure Hounds fans were thinking about that. And really, have you ever I haven't seen too many penalty kick shootouts where the pendulum swung immensely within the 5 kicks. For Jamali Waite, I believe, saved the first 2. He saves the first 2. It's basically like, here, it's on a platter. Just get three three PKs, and you got it. And I've seen it happen many times in collegiate and high school when that goalie makes those maybe one or two saves, it just deflates the opponent. But you got to give Birmingham credit. I mean, they come through. They got the ball to the right people in those moments where they absolutely needed those clutch kicks to finally solve Jamali Waite in the penalty kick shootout. Yeah, so if you really want to look at the penalty kick shootout, what the Hounds decided to do, they kind of let's see here. I've been trying to bring it up because I can't remember everything. Waite makes the first save, and then Toby Sims gets the first go for the Hounds, and he puts it through. And then Bruno Lappa, he's just scored the goal, and he's saved by Waite. So after 2 rounds, Danny Griffin then comes on, and the Hounds are up 2-0, and then that's when Dean comes in, and such a huge clutch player for Birmingham. Dean comes through and gets that goal. One of the best outside backs in the league, and just calmly puts it through. So it's 2-1. Then Albert Dikwa goes upper 90, and it's 3-1, and really that's it right there. You feel like, okay, the Hounds just need one more, put it through, but they had to wait. Birmingham got to get a shot, and that at that point, I'm trying to keep up with all of my tweets here that with the penalty kick shootout. But Enzo Martinez gets in on one. And that was key because then it makes it 3-2, puts a little bit of pressure on the Hounds. And that's when Cicerone, who, you think is going to the Hounds' leading scorer, and Spangelberg, the goalkeeper. So he was brought in for Van Oekel I guess he's just their penalty kick specialist, because late in extra time, Tom Sohn, the head coach at Birmingham, brings on Spangelberg, and he gets the stop on Cicerone. So okay, the Hounds are still leading there after the 4th round. It's 3-2 at that point, and then of course getting into the 5th round, that's when Martinez scored, but putting the pressure on the Hounds, and of course then they go to the youngster, or not really a youngster, Ayang. He's been around the block. He's played his share of soccer. He's a little bit older player. It's in his like 27, I believe. But anyway, he is stopped by Spangelberg in the 5th round. So it ends 3-3 after 5, and then they switch, and that's when they switch. So Birmingham starts taking the kicks, and they convert. They're 6th, and then it had to be Mark Ibarra, who came in the match late, first-year player, and he puts his home, calm, cool, and collected. And then 7th round, it's Roof for Birmingham, and then Arturo Ordonez, another first-year player for the Riverhounds, and he just buried his as well. And it's 5-5 after 7. Lopez scores for Birmingham. So Birmingham getting the first shot now, putting the pressure on the Hounds. And now with that, once it went tied, then all the pressure is really on the Hounds, because Birmingham scores, then Pittsburgh just has to, they have to convert. So Lopez scores in the 8th round. And then Angelo Kelly Rosales, okay, love this story, because here's a guy who's never scored in USL Championship, and playing 5+ years in the championship, and an experienced player. And I thought, again, an excellent sub, because what they were able to do is you can drop Danny Griffin into that 5-man back line. You bring Angelo Kelly Rosales up, and what that does is allows him to be kind of the stopper there and a holding midfielder. Without Canardo Forbes and Danny Griffin sitting deep, all of a sudden the Hounds are a different team in the middle of the field. It's Mark Ibarra and Angelo Kelly Rosales, and they're doing most of the dirty work in the middle. What a turn of events not to have, the Mertz, and Robbie Mertz, another one, got subbed out before the end of the match. So the Hounds, they're really strong center midfield. Robbie Mertz, Canardo Forbes, and Danny Griffin, they didn't even finish the match with those three in the center of the midfield. So again, this team was very resilient tonight. Bob Lilly, I thought, he had I know he, looking at that 85th minute and 85th minute around that time, he had a plan B, he had a plan C, and he had a plan D, and he went at it by, again, going to that 5-man back line, knowing had Kiza in his back pocket, had Ayang. Those are the fresh legs in the attack. Dikwa and Cicerone, I think, they gutted it out towards the end. But anyway, I'm interrupting in the middle of the penalty kick shootout. And of course, we got to the 8th round, and Kelly Rosales nails it. He scores, and it was a terrific shot. So it wasn't like, he didn't look like a player who had never scored a goal in USL Championship before. And then Kavita scores in the 9th round to start the 9th round off for Birmingham. And that was the 17th shot of the penalty kick shootout. And then Jelani Peters comes up, and here's a guy who's, as a big guy, I thought it was one of the other interesting things the Hounds had late. They really needed to try to draw some set pieces, get those set pieces, because you had Jelani Peters, and he was subbed in from Mikael Williams. I think Jelani Peters, we've seen him score on set pieces, headers and whatnot. Big guy, Trinidad Tobago international in the past, and he. With the ball, with the opportunity for a strike, he delivers. He delivers the goal, and it's then 7-7 after 9 rounds. And then, of course, we come to the 10th round. I'm thinking to myself, I'm going through all the names. I'm like, who hasn't taken a PK yet? Which guy are we still waiting for? And I'm scrambling. And at that point, while I'm doing that, Jamali Waite comes through again, makes his 3rd save of the penalty kick shootout on DuPont. And that was a terrific save as well. And then up comes the Riverhounds. And of course, how could I forget the 10th guy and the last field player in the order to step up and take the PK, with Waite making the save only seconds before, was Edward Kiza. Edward Kiza, who, at University of Pittsburgh men's soccer program, if you look at the turnaround in the Pitt men's soccer program, you look at Edward Kiza, you look at Shane Wheat, you look at Arturo Ordonez. Those are 3 guys right there, and they're all part of this game tonight. So it's something that is something to be said for that. And of course, Kiza he just delivered, finishes, and the Hounds celebrate, and it's a 2-2 final score, with an 8-7 penalty kick advantage after 10 rounds. It's an epic match. It's something that we haven't seen the likes of here in Pittsburgh. We saw it in the Birmingham Steel match, but this time the Hounds, time after time throughout the evening, were resilient. They were resilient time after time, and it was such an impressive performance. They were not at the better team. I mean, I would say they were probably not the better team for a good part of the match. We've already talked about the statistics, at least grazed on it, and I will give you the final stats. And that was, obviously 2-2 in the goals department, but 22-7, like I said earlier, 22-7. Birmingham had the edge on shots, a little closer in shots on target, which is an important statistic. So they were 9-4 there. And then the Hounds did have the possession battle, which again, they were sharp in the middle of the field. They were sharp in the middle third of the field. It was in that final third where they were struggling most of the night. And that's really what kind of cost them, maybe why they couldn't be on level terms in terms of, the action going back and forth and creating chances. That Birmingham were coming hard and coming often. But at the same time, I think the Hounds did a decent job defending, at least trying to make those opportunities. They had to make Birmingham work for their shot opportunities. And I think, but again, Jamali Waite's not there to make a few of those saves. Who knows where that match goes. So yeah, who knows? Because that's a guy who, I think this year the Riverhounds goalkeeping situation was up in the air. There were 3 keepers at the beginning of the season. Jamali Waite was the last one signed on. He was the last guy of the group to be signed on. We didn't know what he could bring to the table. And we really didn't see it until the Open Cup, where he got a start in the first Open Cup match, and then at FC Cincinnati, where he really stood on his head and kept the Hounds in that match. And that one went to extra time too. And honestly, I was watching this match tonight, and it felt awful like that match. It felt like the table was tilted towards Birmingham. They were the team that were getting on all the chances. They were doing a lot in terms of pressuring the Hounds and the keeper, and the Hounds just kind of held their ground. And Jamali Waite stood on his head. And after that Cincinnati match, he never quite completely seized the position until probably the second half of the season. But when that second half of the season came in, I think that Bob Lilly and coaching staff and Will Marshall and the guys there, I think they came to the conclusion that we got to get Jamali Waite. He's got to be the guy in goal. So a big win for Jamali Waite, a big night for him. Not only has he begun to start getting called up by the Jamaican national team, I think that's going to continue. He proved it again tonight, what he could be worth, not only at a professional level, but also for his country. I think tonight is another good example where he could maybe get some call-ups and get some starting assignments for his home country. Of course, the corner kicks went 5-2 in favor of Birmingham, as expected. The Hounds were not creating enough on the width. They were having trouble getting around Birmingham's defenders, and it was a wide field, so that's what made it difficult. It shouldn't have made it difficult for the Riverhounds, but Alex Dixon, he's a guy that last year was arguably the team's MVP, and this year down the stretch, I thought he played okay. He played pretty well at times tonight, but the legs, I don't know. He's been subbed out a lot in the second half of the season, and again tonight. Now they do ask him to cover a lot of ground. So also interesting to note that the Hounds went to start the match, went with a 4-2-3-1 with Danny Griffin and Kenardo Forbes kind of in the holding midfield spots, with the back four, which is interesting. Shane Wheat was the outside right back. And then you had in the middle, you had Ordonez and Williams. And then on the left side, you had Danny Rivera. So that was the kind of way they lined up tonight, and thought that I think they tried. They wanted to be aggressive, and that's what Bob said. Bob Lilly said at the outset, ahead of tonight's match, they wanted to be able to control the ball in the middle of the field. I thought they did a good enough job. They were right there with Birmingham. They didn't generate a lot at the end of the first half when it was 0-0. I think one of the comments was they need to create more chances. And they in the final third, it looked good in the middle third, but in the final third, it didn't look very good. So, but yeah, so lots of heroes. It was a nail biter. Honestly, Twitter was exploding. At least the Hounds Twitter was exploding, and people were definitely getting into the match. And I think this is a shot in the arm that the Hounds really could use to propel them forward. And whether it gets them wins against Louisville next week, they're going to play Louisville City on third time in the playoffs in the last 5 years, and in 2019 and 2020. So actually third time in the last 4 years, they'll be playing Louisville City. So that's a familiar foe, but they have another round under their belt. They're going to be tired. Louisville City had to bye this week, so they're going to be again, they're going to be at a huge disadvantage. But again, with this team showing the resiliency that they showed tonight, that I don't think you can count them out. I really don't, especially if the match goes longer and it's tight. We all had concerns with the Riverhounds in terms of their results at the end of the season this year. And they weren't picking up results, but Bob Lilly kept telling everyone that, especially after the Louisville City 0-0 match at Highmark Stadium, and then the loss to Birmingham at Birmingham in September, that team they were doing better things against better competition. Then they had they had to play the San Antonio. They were best team in the USL Championship in terms of record. 1-0, tight game, defensive game. And then, of course, they also had to travel to Sacramento Republic, one of the top teams in the West, the darlings of the U.S. Open Cup, and played them to a tie. They played Orange County to a tie. They did give up a goal late there, but honestly, the defense has been pretty good throughout the course of the end of the regular season. And then they finished it all up with a nice win against the Oakland Roots, and it was sort of like a culmination of, we're playing high level, intense soccer, nip and tuck, tight games. We're really focusing on how can we defend well. And I thought they did that well tonight, and things kind of opened up, went against them. Even that they're down 1-0, it felt like the San Antonio match, where they played a really good team. They kind of held their own. They had their possession, but they couldn't do a lot in the final third. But the difference tonight was, your back's against the wall, season's on the line. You're trying to win one for the fans. You haven't won a playoff game since 2019, and they came through. They got the ball in the box, and Edward Kizos, when you step into a match in that moment and you can make a play like that, that's big time stuff, and that really elevates the Hounds organization a bit. I think this is a jolt that the Hounds really, really, really needed, and I think it was worth coming on here, to do a post game and to talk about this match. I just felt like, I wanted to share my thoughts, and I thought this was a match that was definitely, I put it up there. They put it up there in the ranks of Pittsburgh Riverhounds history and Pittsburgh soccer history. It's definitely one of those matches that we'll be talking about for a long time. I think we'll be looking back and saying 2-2, extra time. You go down a goal, you equalize. You go down a goal, you equalize again, and it's the same guy both times. And then you win the penalty kick shootout, and it's the same guy, Edward Kiza, who comes through to seal the deal. And that's something that I think Pittsburgh Riverhounds fans, Pittsburgh soccer fans, I think will remember for a long time. And like I said, it could catapult things, and you just never know. Deep playoff runs, sometimes you need that magic. And tonight they got the magic. And they haven't had the magic in recent years. It just didn't go their way in 18 in that Bethlehem Steel match. They were the team that went up 1-0, and then they got equalized, and then they went up 2-1, and then they got equalized. So it was an interesting turn, if you will, turn of events. So it was somewhat similar to the Bethlehem Steel game. And then again, it was a long shootout. So it was strange. It felt like, this is the same type of match, but are they going to lose it again? But this time they were the team fighting back. And sometimes that team that's fighting back is the team that can pull it out. And they did tonight. And that was really something that I hope everyone enjoyed. And it was, I think that's what you can do. So you can ride that magic now, and maybe you can ride it for a few more rounds. I mean, you got to play unbelievably tough matches. You got to play Louisville City. If you win that match, then you got to go to Tampa, most likely, or Memphis. Two teams that have had their way with the Riverhounds, at least in the second half of the season. So they're back. They're being counted out. That was something that I wrote about today prior to the game. The Hounds were counted out heading into this playoffs. They, when it comes to the postseason, they've come up short so many times, and they were counted out. If you look at the statistics, the 538.com had them at advancing today on a 38%. Okay, so they broke through on that number, but now they're saying 538 said that there was a 5% chance that they could advance to the conference final. So it means a 5% chance that they'll beat Louisville City. And their backs are against the wall. Yeah, they've got something now. They've got something now that they've got this magical win that they could kind of jump, look at, and that's something that they could catapult them into something that they haven't done. They haven't done this. They have not gone on a deep playoff run. And so I think anything's possible. And of course, here at Pittsburgh Soccer Now, we're going to be on top of it. We'll have coverage this week. We will be following, probably have some, I guess, an opportunity to catch up with Bob Lilly this week sometime at training, and some of the players and the heroes. You bet we'll be. I've already been in touch with Mac Rubba with the Riverhounds. We will be talking to Edward Kiza and Jamali Waite, the heroes, and get the reaction from the players. But also, they've got to recover now. Now it's all about the recovery. They travel back on Monday, so it'll be interesting. They travel back from Birmingham Monday. Probably a day off. The rest of the day, Monday is off, but they'll probably be back training Tuesday. And it's going to be a short training week. So you're going to have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, then the trip to Louisville. So Saturday night, 7:30. Can the third time in the playoffs against Louisville City be the charm? That's the question. So we shall see. So this has been Pittsburgh Post Game. I thank you for joining me. Just had to get it out. Had to get our reaction to what was really an epic, remarkable match, and look forward to more coverage on Pittsburgh Soccer Now on the Pittsburgh Riverhounds. And of course, this is the crazy time of the year for us here at Pittsburgh Soccer Now. We're all on top of it. We have the WPIL playoffs every day, posting the scores, doing the updates. Look for more coverage, and of course, all leads up to the road to Highmark Stadium, which is the WPIL finals, which will be November 3rd through the 5th. Of course, Pitt, Duquesne, Robert Morris, all the college teams are wrapping up their seasons this week, essentially. And well, Pitt women today, what can I say? A 1-0 loss to number 4 Florida State. And you will see more on Pittsburgh Soccer Now, too, coming from Rachel Krieger on that match. She was there. She called the match. And you'll definitely want to look forward to that. And we'll have more coverage. And the Pitt men's soccer team, they battled number 2 Duke. Really, what a great performance in terms of defensively, because we knew what Duke was capable of. They're number 2 in the country. They haven't lost. And Pitt went to Durham, and they held on for his 0-0 tie. So, they're kind of starting to get their groove back, at least in terms of being organized. And they didn't have Bertrand Jacquesson, and they get Jacquesson back. That, they shouldn't be relying on one attacking player, but he maybe is the kind of guy that makes a difference in a match like that against Duke. So we'll look forward to seeing they wrap up their season against their nemesis from last year, Notre Dame, on Friday night. And Dom Campbell, Dom is Money on Twitter. Dom will be covering the Pitt Notre Dame match for Pittsburgh Soccer Now. So yeah, lots going on. Duquesne obviously still unbeaten in the Atlantic 10. The Duquesne Dukes unbeaten in the Atlantic 10, and that's obviously they have a whole bunch of ties in there too, but hey, credit to Duquesne, credit to Chase Brooks. Make sure you follow Zach Weiss with Pittsburgh Soccer Now and Pittsburgh Sports Now. Zach has been really on top of everything relating to Duquesne soccer, and the women as well. They'll be in the playoffs in the Atlantic 10 as well. So wow, just so much going on, and to see the Riverhounds come through tonight with a big win. It is one we will remember for a long time. So again, I'm signing off here at Pittsburgh Soccer Now, Pittsburgh Post Game, and we will simulcast this on Sounding Off on Soccer as well. So you get to listen to this in the morning if you'd like as well. All right, thanks for joining me for this Riverhounds reaction. It was quite a match. Have a good night.